We all know how the story starts. One day we arrive, one day we're gone, and everything that happens in between, well, we think we understand it. Birth, growing up, making choices, loving, losing, working, dreaming. But everything before that first breath and everything after the last one, that's a mystery no one's been able to solve. And that mystery, that void of knowledge, makes it incredibly hard to say with any real confidence why we're here in the first place. If we can't explain where we came from, how do we even begin to ask what we're meant to do while we're here? It's the same on the other side of the timeline. If we don't know where we're heading or what happens when all of this ends, then how can we say anything we do right now really matters? This uncertainty, this cosmic blind spot, has haunted us ever since humans first started asking questions. That age-old whisper echoing through every era. What is the meaning of life? No one has answered it, not truly. But along the way, we've tried to build frameworks, belief systems, philosophies, stories to make that question a little less terrifying. For many, religion provides the blueprint. A divine being crafted the universe, placed us here with a purpose, and will one day judge how we lived. For others, it's love, connection, shared moments, the smiles and heartbreaks that come from being close to people we care about. And then there are those who find meaning in life itself. The simple fact that we're alive is enough. But for some, there is no meaning. Not in love, not in religion, not in existence itself. That's nihilism, the belief in nothing. To the nihilist, everything, joy, pain, success, failure, it's all just noise in the void. Life has no built-in meaning, no higher plan, no cosmic significance, just a blip in time between two eternities of nothingness. And whether we admit it or not, most of us brush up against nihilism at some point. It creeps in when the old answers stop working, when you begin to pull away from what you were raised to believe, but haven't yet found anything to replace it. It's that in-between space, that growing pain, that late-night spiral where you stare at the ceiling and wonder, why? A three-letter word that can undo everything. Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I care about the things I care about? Where did my values even come from? Who gave them to me? And what happens when I can't answer anymore? You keep digging and digging, peeling back the layers until you're staring into the void and the void doesn't blink. There's no answer, just silence, just nothing. But here's the thing. These philosophies often get lumped together, and while they might look similar on the surface, they're actually very different once you dig in. Categorizing your own thoughts into neat little boxes like nihilism, cynicism, or apathy, that's trickier than it sounds. Cynics, for example, believe people are always driven by self-interest, that nobody really acts out of goodness, they're just doing what benefits them. In the cynic's eyes, we're all selfish, through and through, but here's the interesting part. By assuming people aren't good, the cynic is still acknowledging that good exists somewhere, just not in us. But nihilists? They don't even go that far. They don't think people are good or evil, because to them, those words, good, right, wrong, are all just made up. Labels we invented to give our actions a sense of structure. In a nihilist's worldview, nothing has inherent meaning, nothing is sacred, nothing is, anything. Now, apathetic people, they're in a different lane altogether. They might believe life has meaning, they just don't care, they've tuned out. Maybe it's too much, maybe they're just tired. But nihilism is something else entirely. It's not just disinterest, it's the rejection of the entire idea that there's any larger purpose to begin with. And that's where the paradox of nihilism creeps in. If you believe in nothing, doesn't that nothing become something you believe in? And if you believe in something, anything, can you still call it nihilism? That's the thing with nihilism. It's not cut and dry. It didn't even start as a philosophy. It was first a literary concept, a mood, a story element. It seeped into philosophy later, wearing many faces with no single definition tying it down. Over time, people tried to make sense of it, tried to put it into categories. And what we got were different flavors of nihilism. There's political nihilism, which calls for the complete dismantling of social, religious, and political institutions, believing that only through total destruction can we rebuild something better. Then there's ethical nihilism, which rejects the very idea of universal morals. In this worldview, morality is just a social construct. If we made it up, we don't have to follow it. That kind of thinking says, if we want true freedom, we've got to let go of the fake rules. And then there's the one we've been circling all along, existential nihilism. The belief that life in its entirety has no meaning, no value, no reason. This is the version most people recognize, and probably the one you've felt tug at your mind when the world got a little too quiet. From that perspective, things like religion, governments, and even shared morality, they're just cages, restrictions on what we could be. So the question becomes, if we're not allowed to do whatever we want, are we even free? Or are we just playing along with a script we didn't write, out of fear of what happens if we stop? I remember scrolling Reddit one night and I came across this post. Someone asked, if you had to choose between saving your pet or a stranger, who would you save? And the answer? Overwhelmingly, the pet. No hesitation. And when someone challenged that logic, asking how they could possibly value an animal's life over a human's, one commenter shot back with a question of their own. Why do you think a human life is worth more than that of an animal? Silence. People tried to explain, rationalize, justify, but no one could answer the why. Not really. And that is the nihilist's point. If we can't answer why we do things, why we follow these made-up rules, then what are we really doing? Are we living authentically? Or are we just clinging to beliefs because the alternative, facing the emptiness, is too much to handle? Because let's be honest, truly accepting that nothing matters, that's terrifying. It means all our discoveries, all our progress with science, technology, space travel, human rights, all the things we're proud of, might just be a cosmic blip, a flash of activity in a universe that doesn't care, that never cared. Every triumph, every heartbreak, every beautiful and terrible moment we've ever experienced, gone, dust, meaningless. It's not hard to understand why people don't want to think this way. It hurts. It breaks you open in a way most philosophies don't. But maybe, just maybe, we're not supposed to make sense of the chaos. Maybe we're just meant to laugh at it. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher most associated with nihilism, had a strange relationship with it. He both embraced and rejected it. He believed there's no true order to the world, that every truth humans believe in is just a story we told ourselves. He once said, every belief, every considering something true is necessarily false because there is no true world. To Nietzsche, nihilism wasn't just an idea. It was a lens to expose all the lies we've wrapped around ourselves. When he said God is dead, he wasn't talking about a literal death. He was talking about the collapse of religion's hold on meaning, about humanity stepping out of the shadow of divine command and into a world where we had to figure it out, alone. But in that same breath, Nietzsche also warned us. He saw the future one where unchecked nihilism wouldn't liberate humanity, but unravel it. He predicted that as the old world crumbled, we'd tumble into chaos, a kind of spiritual collapse, a void. He called it the greatest crisis of humanity. And honestly, look around. Across history, some of the most destructive regimes and movements didn't rise in the presence of meaning, but in the absence of it. When belief systems decay, when traditions are cast aside without anything to replace them, nihilism creeps in like a silent fog. No rules, no morals, no why. And if nothing matters, if we're just atoms bouncing around in an indifferent universe, then how do we truly condemn horrors like slavery, apartheid, or genocide? How do we logically argue that those things are wrong, not just unpleasant? Can we really say, on an objective level, that someone like Adolf Hitler was evil, if morality itself is just a social invention? Most of us feel deep down that these things are horrifying, that they violate something fundamental. But if we try to explain why with cold, rational logic, we struggle. And that Nietzsche believed. Because if we can't defend morality in the face of doubt, we can't expect others to follow it. That's why, despite being so closely tied to nihilism, Nietzsche wasn't promoting it. He was challenging us to confront it, to pass through the chaos, not drown in it. He believed nihilism was a necessary stage, a demolition. And from the ruins, we could build something stronger, something new, like tearing down a crumbling house not to live in the rubble, but to make space for a home that's better, wiser, more honest. And here we are now. Look at our world. Look at social media. Look at culture, wars, and collapsing institutions. We're watching the very fabric of our shared beliefs unravel in real time. Religion no longer holds the moral high ground. Long-standing traditions are being questioned, sometimes for the better, sometimes just because people can. And in that vacuum, anything goes. No matter how outrageous, there's always someone somewhere ready to defend it. And the question lingers. If there's no universal truth, no shared meaning, why not? That's the question no one can quite answer. And if we keep shifting the needle forward, bit by bit, eventually there'll be no more lines to cross. Nothing left to say is wrong because no one will agree on what wrong even means. And maybe that's what Nietzsche feared most, not just the destruction of old values, but the inability to create new ones. Shakespeare, centuries before Nietzsche, wrote something chillingly relevant. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. If life is truly meaningless, if we're here for no grand reason, then maybe our job isn't to find meaning. Maybe it's to create it. Maybe it's not about the glass being half full or half empty. Maybe the glass doesn't matter at all. Maybe we just toss it aside, turn on the faucet, and drink until we're full, until we're satisfied. Because life itself, the raw, wild, unfiltered experience of existing, that alone might be reason enough to keep going. Maybe that's the only meaning we need.